This is one of my most requested videos from you guys. So today we're going to be talking about all the languages that I speak. Hello lovely book dragons and welcome back to another video. My name is Joanna and welcome to my channel. I love to read fantasy, but today we're here to do a different kind of video. We're not going to be talking about books, but we will be talking about languages. So kind of words and stories in and of themselves. So we're going to be talking about all the languages that I speak. I would like to preface this video that I don't mean this as any sort of flex or anything. Like, honestly, this is a video that I have gotten requests for. When people know how many languages I speak, they always say, oh, how and how come and which ones and why and all these questions. And I've had people tell me, hey, just make a video on this. This is super interesting to hear about. So today I'm going to be talking about the languages that I speak, but I would also like to say that yesterday, for me it's in a few hours, but yesterday I was on a live show on Abby Salter's channel with Petrik, Andy, and Ola, and Alicia, and Abby, of course, herself. And we talked about reading in different languages. So if you missed out on that conversation, I will leave Abby's channel linked down below so that you can go check it out. We hopefully had a ton of fun. I assume so. For me, it's in the future, so I don't know. But there you can see different people talking about their experiences as international readers and with speaking and reading in different languages. So today's video, I am just going to talk about the languages that I speak, why I speak them, how comfortable I feel in them, and I'm gonna sample a little bit, which is the most awkward part. But yes, I'm gonna speak a little bit in those languages so that you can hear about that. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to be posting a video about my experiences as an international reader and also your experiences as an international reader, because I actually took to my Instagram and I did a little survey on there about your experiences as international readers if you are an international reader. And so I will be going through your answers and my experiences and your experiences, and it'll be a ton of fun. So without further ado, let's talk about languages that I speak. So first things first, I speak 7 languages. I speak fluently 4 out of those 7. 2 of them I am pretty good at. Like, I used to be very fluent in those 2 languages as well, but I haven't practiced them in a long time. One of them I still practice at work audibly, but I don't speak it because I feel it takes me too long to form sentences in that language. And then the last one is what I'm learning. But I speak it enough to say that I speak it, but not enough to say that I am any good at it. So, so the languages that I speak are, of course, English. I speak French, I speak Portuguese, I speak Spanish, I speak Luxembourgish, which, yes, that is a language. I speak German, and I'm learning Dutch right now. So those are the 7 languages that I speak, and I will tell you how come and why, and a little bit of my backstory and why I learned all these languages, and then I will sample them for you. So the story of how I speak so many languages starts with my grandparents and my mother. My grandparents are from Portugal, but at one point in their life, they decided that they weren't making enough money to support their family in Portugal, and my grandfather got a job offer in Paris, France, and they took that job offer and he went to Paris, and he took his whole family with him. My mother was born in Paris, and so she was speaking French and Portuguese as a kid. Portuguese because my family's from Portugal, they were living in like a Portuguese neighborhood in Paris, everyone was speaking Portuguese, but of course they were also learning French because they were living in France. So my mom always spoke those 2 languages, and then at the age of 6, she returned to live in Portugal. She lived there until she was about 24 years old, and one day she got a job opportunity in Luxembourg, and she asked the person who suggested that she come to work here what languages they speak here, and they say, hey, you speak French, right? So that should be enough. And she came to Luxembourg, and that was 1 year before I was born. She moved here, and I was born in Luxembourg. So I was born in Luxembourg to a Portuguese mother who also spoke French. So from the get-go, I was speaking Portuguese and French as a little kid. I think my mom probably told me, hey, when we speak this is Portuguese and this is French. I don't know how she did it, that I didn't mix up the languages, because apparently I never mixed up the languages, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I was speaking those 2 languages pretty fluently. And my mother's best friend is from Paraguay, and she was helping my mom raise me a little bit when I was a baby, and so she always spoke Spanish to me. She's like, you're gonna speak Spanish like your tia, I'm gonna teach you everything. And I was speaking then Portuguese, French, and Spanish as a little kid. What really helped me, and this is a tip if you want to teach your children a different language, was to know when I saw my aunts, that was Spanish. Like, my mom speaks Spanish, of course, because they were best friends, so they were speaking Spanish. And even if it was the three of us in a room and we were all speaking Spanish together, when I would speak to my mother, I would not speak to her in Spanish, even though the conversation was going on in Spanish. I would turn to my mother and speak either in French or in Portuguese, because in my head, that face is that language. So I was growing up with these three languages, and I was, as a kid, you know, growing up however a kid speaks in those languages. So when I was almost 2 years old, my mother was raising me as a single mom, and she needed a little bit of help, and so she found this elderly couple that was going to take care of me during the day while she was at work. And like I told you, I grew up in Luxembourg. I was born here, I grew up here, and Luxembourg is actually a tiny country. Like, there's 600,000 inhabitants in this country. And I'm gonna put up a map right here on the screen right now. It's a country that's wedged in between France, Belgium, and Germany. Like, literally from my house where I am right now, I can drive to Belgium and to France in 5 minutes. So it's that close. And I can be in Germany in like half an hour. So that's how close I am to all of these countries. And so Luxembourg actually has 3 national languages. We have Luxembourgish, French, and German. Those 3 languages are national. All of our laws are written in French, and then there's some stuff that's like the German is used for something else, and then Luxembourg is just like the language that we speak. So when I went to this elderly couple, they spoke French, of course, and that was the language that we had in common. And so to teach me Luxembourgish and German, they just started speaking Luxembourgish to me, and when I had questions, I would ask them in French. So from the age of 2, I had French and Portuguese and Spanish all around my ears. I was speaking at a very young age. Apparently my mom said I started speaking very early on. So yeah, I was already very familiar with the sounds of those languages. And French and Portuguese and Spanish are pretty similar in sounds. Like, they are Roman, they are Latin languages. So you can imagine that as a kid, when I was confronted with Germanic languages, Luxembourgish and German, it was harder. It was a lot harder. The sounds were completely different. The sentence structures were completely different. I was putting verbs in places where they had no business being. But it was great because I was 2 when I was actually 1.5, I think, or like almost 2 years old when I went to this couple. And they were pretty harsh with me with learning. They wouldn't give me a pass with just speaking French to them. They're like, nope, you're gonna learn this language and you're gonna be fluent at it. And I'm super grateful because everyone who taught me languages was very strict with me, because they didn't want me to start mixing languages and not being fluent in any of them. So I was learning Luxembourgish with them, speaking on a day-to-day basis, just speaking. And the German was more, the books they would buy me would be in German. They would buy me the VHSs in German. So it's really funny because some Disney movies for me are German and some Disney movies are French, because I had some VHSs in French and I had some VHSs in German. So for example, Lady and the Tramp for me was a German movie, but Snow White was a French movie because I watched that one in French. So that is kind of how I grew up speaking those 5 languages. So when I started school, German was taught in school, French was taught in school, so then I learned to write those 2 languages and reading them all the time for school and doing my homework in those languages. And actually something in Luxembourg is when you go to primary school, so we have 6 years of primary school and then you immediately go to high school for 7 years. So all of your primary school years are in German, except the French class. So everything you learn is German. Then when you go to high school, you switch to French, but only in some stuff. So you are then taught math in French, which you have been taught math until now, until you're 12 years old, you're taught it in German. Then you go into French, and then biology, which you've always learned in German, so you know all these words in German. At the age of 15, they switch it into French. So then your brains has to get used to all these new words in French, biological words. Like, I know there were a lot of things that we didn't know how to say because it's not a word that comes up in conversation every day. And if, for example, I saw that my classmates who were Luxembourgish and they basically spoke Luxembourgish and German at home, they were not very confident in French. For them, it was very hard to get adapted to math and biology and science classes in French because they knew all these words in German or in Luxembourgish, but not in French. Point is, I was then learning all these languages at school. I was practicing every single language every day. Spanish started falling behind because I didn't spend as much time with my mom's best friend anymore. But because it's a language that I knew from when I was little, it was okay. I could still speak it on a regular basis. Then at the age of, I think I was about 12 years old or something like that. That is when at school we started learning English. I think now they teach it a lot earlier because they know how important it is. And basically kids know English because of YouTube and all that stuff. But yeah, when I was 12 years old, I started learning English, and that was hard because it was the first language I was learning as not a child. So all the other languages I started learning before I was 2 years old, but English came so late, and it was so hard to pronounce things. Like, there's still words that sometimes are really hard, like for example world or word or ward. Like, those words sound so weird and they were so hard to pronounce. And I thought, okay, I'm someone also, when I speak a language, I have this really weird thing where I don't want to have an accent, okay? Like, I'm like, I won't speak it until I'm fluent, which is ridiculous because to lose your accent, you have to practice it and to hear it in the language, like by natives. But I was weird like that. So I never wanted to read out loud in English class because I felt so ashamed of my accent. It was pretty bad. But then I thought, okay, the only way to get rid of this fear of this language, which is a very important language, is to just immerse yourself. So I knew that I wanted to go to university either in the UK or in the US because I wanted to be surrounded by English 24/7. So when time came to choose a university, I ultimately decided to be crazy and to do something I never thought I would do, to do something that I probably knew I would never get the chance to do again, and I decided to go to the US. And it was one of the best decisions of my life. I loved those 3 years there to do my bachelor's degree. And it was a harsh reality because I remember the first day when I woke up, my brain was, of course, auto-tuned in French when I woke up, and I was sharing a room with my roommate, and I woke up and I was like, "Salut, ça va?" And she was like, "What are you saying?" I was like, "Oh." Like, I was so used my whole life that when I could switch languages. I was never bound to only speaking one language. And here, I didn't have a choice. If I wanted to get my point across, if I wanted to communicate with these people, if I wanted to make friends, I had to actually practice this language that was so difficult for me to get over because I wasn't used to speaking it on a daily basis. So it was quite difficult to just like switch my brain to English all the time, especially when I didn't have the words. I was like, I don't know, how do you say this? How do you do that? Like, for example, a word I didn't know was to thaw something. So when I first bought frozen food and I was like, oh, I have to unfreeze the chicken. And my mom was like, you mean thaw? I was like, I guess I mean thaw, a new word. So it was very interesting. It was very nice to be submersed in that language, to always hear English and speak English. And that's how I became pretty good at it. And how I, when I was in America, actually, it was really funny because I lost my accent. I lost every accent that I had from here. And I hung out with a lot of international people. I found all the French people. I found all the Portuguese/Brazilian people. And we all hung out together. And I remember that one time I was going out with a friend and we bought a cupcake, and she was from France. And if any French people are watching, please don't get offended. But the French have a very interesting and strong accent. And even though she'd been in America for as many years as me, she still had her French accent. And so when she arrived and she was ordering her food, they were like, oh, where are you from? French accent and stuff. Like, they knew she was from France, probably, but where in France? And so I was like, I'm also international, but people wouldn't pick up on it, which was really cool, and that's exactly what I wanted. So those are then the 6 languages. How did I get to Dutch? Dutch. I met my husband, who is from the Netherlands, and thank the heavens he spoke, well, everyone in the Netherlands speaks perfect English, but he also spoke already a little bit of French. But now we are planning on moving to the Netherlands in the nearish future, and so I need to learn Dutch, and that's how I'm getting to my 7th language. As a little side note, I am able to pick up on other languages. For example, Italian, I'm able to hear it and to understand a lot of it, not everything. I'm not able to speak it very well, maybe like a few sentences here and there, but not enough to count it as a language. Or I remember that one time I was hanging out with some American friends who came to visit me here, and we were walking somewhere in the street, and then someone passed me. I was like, oh, they were speaking Serbian. And then the dude was like, how do you know? I was like, oh, because my best friend is Serbian, and so I hear the words and I know, oh, this word means that, and therefore I know that this is the language. And that is something that when you live in Luxembourg is something that is your experience every day. You go into a store and you don't know what language you're going to be speaking. So sometimes I walk into a store and I want to buy bread, and I'm like, does this person in front of me speak Luxembourgish, German, French, Portuguese? I don't know. So you just like throw a tentative hello and then in any language, and then you see how the person replies. Automatically, I speak French to people here, but if I notice that they revert to another language, I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. We can speak in this language if I speak it. But yeah, that's something actually that Melvin thinks is really difficult in Luxembourg, because you never know. You just never know the person next to you. So for example, if you were lost somewhere and you wanted to know, hey, where is this street? You wouldn't know what to speak to the person that you're asking. This morning, for example, I went and picked up my groceries, and automatically I said bonjour to the guy in French, and he said, Olá, bom dia, which is Portuguese. And I was like, how do you know? So he probably saw my name and it was like, she's from Portugal. But it was like so interesting how you don't know which language to speak to anyone, and it keeps you on your toes. So now that I'm learning Dutch, I noticed the same problems that I had when I was learning English. I'm even older now. Like I'm almost 20 years older than when I started learning English. And so learning Dutch is difficult because my brain is wired in so many different languages and so many different things, which makes it easier on the one hand because it's so close to Luxembourgish and German. So when I don't know how to say something, I just go to Luxembourgish, take the word, say it, and hopefully it lands. And then Melvin sometimes says, that was a lucky guess, or he says, no, that's not Dutch, that's Luxembourgish. I'm like, worth a try, worth a try. So it is easier because I have other languages I can go to and hold on to, and okay, this is how the sentence structure is in a Germanic language, so I assume in Dutch it's also like that. But for example, this morning I was speaking a bit with him in Dutch and I used the sentence structure from Luxembourgish, and then actually it was completely different. So makes it a little bit easier but also a little bit more difficult, but it's fun, keeps me on my toes, keeps my brain wired to learn a new language, and I really like that. I've always wanted to learn even more languages. I would love to get to 10, but I think this is already very good. I don't know if I'll ever get to 10. If I do, I'll let you know. Okay, so now I'm going to just quickly tell you which languages I am most comfortable with and then speak in those languages, and then we're going to close out this video because it's already very long, I see. Okay, so the 4 languages I'm most comfortable with are the four I told you that I'm fluent in: English, French, Portuguese, Luxembourgish. I use these 4 languages every single day of my life. At home with Melvin, when we're not practicing the Dutch that I'm trying to learn, we speak English with each other. At work, I work for the Luxembourgish government. I speak Luxembourgish every single day of my life. I mean, it's what I speak the most in actually, because all my meetings, everything is in Luxembourgish. But also French, because we have a lot of people from France. Like I said, I live very close to Belgium and France, and so we have a lot of people that come to Luxembourg every single day to work here. And a lot of my coworkers only speak French, and they don't speak Luxembourgish, so we speak a lot of French. So I use French, Luxembourgish, English every single day. Portuguese I don't use every single day, but when I call my mom, when I speak to, for example, Filipa or other people from the Portuguese booktube side, I speak Portuguese. So I don't use it every single day, but almost. And so those are the 4 languages I am most confident in. Next up is Spanish. Like I said, I stopped practicing it all the time, but it's still a language that I heard so much that as a kid that I still know it. I can understand every single thing in Spanish. I'm no longer so good at speaking it. It takes me more time to form the sentences, and I have a bad accent now, but I can still speak it. And German, I have meetings in German often, like at least once per week one of my meetings is in German, and I understand everything and I could still speak it, but I take too long to form sentences. Like when I'm supposed to be speaking German, my brain says just speak English instead. And that happened to me one time at university. I met someone from Germany. I was like, I speak German, and I started speaking to them and I was like, why was that English? Like, why does my brain not want this language? So it's a language that takes me a little bit more effort to speak in, not to understand, but to speak in. And so I'm not as fluent in it or confident in it as I used to be. It was always my hardest language. It was always the one that it was the most difficult for me, but hey, I can still survive if I go to Germany. And then, of course, Dutch, which I'm only just learning. Okay, so I'm going to be saying the same sentence in every single language that I'm going to be speaking in, so that I say it once in English, and then you know what I'm saying, so you just get to hear what it sounds like in a different language. Hi, I'm Joana, and I live in Luxembourg. I am married, and I love to read, to go on walks, to be creative, and to spend time with my friends and my family. Bonjour, je m'appelle Joana, j'habite au Luxembourg et je suis mariée. J'aime lire, aller me balader, être créative et passer du temps avec mes amis et ma famille. Moin, ich bin Joana, ich wohne in Lützeburg und ich bin bestuurt. Ich lese gern, ich gehe gerne spazieren, ich bin doch immens gerne kreativ und ich verbringe gerne Zeit mit meiner Familie und mit meinen Kollegen. Olá, eu sou a Joana, eu vivo no Luxemburgo e sou casada. Eu gosto de ler, de ir passear, de ser criativa e de passar tempo com os meus amigos e a minha família. Hola, soy Joana, vivo en Luxemburgo y soy casada. Me gusta leer, pasear, ser creativa y pasar tiempo con mis amigos y mis familiares. Hallo, ich bin Joana, ich wohne in Luxemburg und ich bin verheiratet. Ich lese gerne, ich gehe auch gerne spazieren. Ich bin sehr gern kreativ und verbringe gerne Zeit mit meiner Familie und mit meinen Freunden. Hallo, ik ben Joana. Ik woon in Luxemburg en ben getrouwd. Ik hou van lezen, wandelen, creatief zijn en tijd doorbrengen met mijn familie en mijn vrienden. So, there you go guys. Those are all the languages that I speak, why I speak them, how it was to learn them, and all those things. This was a little bit of a different video, but I hope you guys enjoyed it nonetheless. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it until the very end of this video, please comment a flag in the comments with the language that you speak in. If you are from the US, you can put the US flag. If you're from the UK, you can use the UK flag, Australian flag for English. But yeah, I would love to know how many languages you speak, and if you only speak one, which one it is. Probably English since you're watching this, but let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you on Wednesday with my experiences as an international reader and your experiences as an international reader. Don't forget to check out the conversation we had yesterday on Abby's channel, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye guys.